Arrays are extensively used and JavaScript provides a rich set of functions to manipulate them. So let's look at some of these functions. Find returns the value of the first element in the array that satisfies the provided condition. So suppose we are looking to find an even number. So that is our condition. So it will return the first element that satisfies the provided condition. Checks all the elements of the array, and if the condition is not satisfied, returns undefined. Another is findIndex. findIndex is very similar to find, except that it returns the index of the element rather than the element. So find is for returning the element, findIndex is for returning the index. So similar to find, except that it returns the index of the first element in the array that satisfies the provided condition. And if the condition is not satisfied, it will return -1. Another similar function is filter. What does filter do? Filter filters the array on the specified condition. So it returns an array of all the elements in the array that satisfy the provided condition. So find and findIndex return for the first, filter would return an array of all the elements. And if the condition is not satisfied by any element, it returns an empty array. Suppose we have this array nums and we want to find the even number in it. So what do we want to do? Find an even number. So what can we do? We should say nums dot find function num, and we should say return num %2 is equal to 0. And because this will return a value, I can say let even number is equal to this. So what are we doing here? So this is nums.find. So we are calling the find function on this array, and within it we have provided this function which will run for every value in this or every element in this array. So num here is the element of the array, and for each value it will do this comparison, num %2 is equal to 0. So it will either return true or false, and the first time it returns true, we will get the answer. So let's say I do console.log even number. So what do I get? I get 24. So 7, 9, 11, 24, that is the first even number. Suppose I put a console.log here, console.log checking and num. Now what does this give us? So we first checked for 7, that was the first number in the array, then for 9, then for 11. In these three cases it returned false, num %2 is equal to 0 was false, and for 24 it became true and we got 24 here. Exactly the same way we could have said let index is equal to nums dot find index. Suppose we want to find the index of that first even number, not the number but the index. So we would use find index, and exactly the same way I can say function num return num %2 is equal to 0. So we have, what is our comparison function here? For each number in this array nums, we are returning num %2 is equal to 0. So now if I do a console.log index, what do I do? What do I get? I get 3. So the index of this is 3. So I get the index. So this is exactly like find, but we are getting the index here. Similarly, we could have filtered it. So let me say left f array, filtered array is equal to nums dot filter, and I can say function num return num %2 is equal to 0. Now this would filter it for all the elements, and all the even elements will be returned in this array FARR. So let me print the filtered array, and now when I run it, what do I get? I get this array has two numbers, 24 and 12, which are the even numbers. If I put a console.log filter for num, we can see that unlike find, wherein it found the first value and it exited, filter is running for all the values in the array and then giving us the output. Suppose we wanted to find an odd number instead of even. So let me make this change. So num percentage 2 should be our equal to 1 should be our condition. And now if I run it, what do I get? Checking 7. So 7 is our first odd number. We get it. 0 we get here for the find index. And in the filter we get all these values. Let's run it for something which has only even numbers. What do we get? Let's say 2, 4, 6. And let me put this console off. So we get undefined for find. We get -1 for find index because we couldn't find an odd number. And for the filter, we get an empty array. So this is one basic way we use find index and filter. Now we could have modified this code in a slight way. So let me say this comparison function is, we define a function, say function check number, and it takes a number n as input and it would return n percentage 2 is equal to 1. So it would return whether this number is odd or not, which is what we are checking here. So now instead of writing this code here, I could have just said return check number and passed it the parameter num. And this is the same function we could have used for all the three because we're doing exactly the same task. Let's run it and see what do we get. We get undefined -1 and the empty array. Let's give it, say, a value, say 7, 9, 11, 6. Let's test it and we get the right value. So we could have also done this. Now suppose whether we are, I could have also made this even numbers. I could have checked for an even number. Now suppose we wanted to check for multiples of 3. So I could just make this n percentage 3 is equal to 0 and it would now check for multiples of 3 and give me. Suppose I wanted to give a parameter here that you should check of which number is this divisible by. So I could have said n percentage k is equal to 0, but now I would need to provide this k as a parameter. So we could have said here num comma 3. So this 3 comes in as a parameter and this can work exactly the same way. This parameter could also have been, let's say, we say let check, or let's call it x is equal to 3. Now I could have, because x is a variable that's defined, so I could have used x here and it should give me the same output. Let's say make x as, say, 4. What do we get? And we can check it. So now we can find if a number is the first number in this array which is divisible by 4, its index, and we can also filter on it. So let's look at a few problems. Given an array of numbers and a number x, there are 3 parts. Find the first element greater than x, find the index of the first element greater than x, and then filter the array to create a new array having the elements greater than x. So suppose we have this array numbers and this x, and we want to find the first value which is greater than x. So I can say numbers dot find. What do I want to find? Let's say a function. Let's define a function on a number n in this array. and we should be able to do return num n greater than x. Now if n is greater than x, this is our condition, so it should return a true. So now that we have done it, we can assign it into a variable. So let num1 is equal to numbers.findX, and now we can say console.log find comma num1. Let's run it. So we find the value 12 here. Now suppose we want to find the index, so we could have just said numbers dot find index, that is what we would use, and we can say function, let's call it n again, and it is exactly the same, n greater than x, that is the condition. And let's say let index equal to numbers.index, and we can do a console.log index is index. If I run it, what do I get? I get the index as 3. So 0, 1, 2, 3. Now we need to filter and get all the arrays, all the elements in this array which are greater than x. So we can say numbers dot filter, and what is the condition? Function n, again it's the same, return n greater than x, and this we can assign to a variable, let arr is equal to this, and console.log the output of filter is arr. Now when I run it, what do I get? I get all the numbers from this array 12, 18, 21 which we have been able to filter. Let's now test it for a different value. Let's say the value is say 20. Now what do we get? We get find as 21, which is fine. We get index as 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and filter as 21. Let's suppose give it the value 1. We get 2, which is fine. Index is 0, the first element, and the filter has all the elements in it. Let's check it for a very large value. We get find as undefined because we couldn't find a number which was greater than 100. Index is -1, and the filter shows an empty array. We could have also changed this code and said function is big, and we could have said n comma x return n greater than x. This is what we could have done, and because this x is, let's make it num comma comparison, the number we are comparing with, just so that it's easy for us. And instead of using this here, we could have just said return is big n comma x, and it should work for all of them. So this condition could have been specified like this also, and it will give us the same output. In this case, because this function is so small, we have written it here, but if there were more things that were done and we were reusing it, we could have defined it as a function and done it. Let's look at the next exercise. Given an array of strings representing names of people and a char ch, find the first name that starts with ch, find the index of the first name that starts with ch, and filter the array to create a new array having the names starting with ch. So here I have an array of names. So there are some names, and let's say the ch we want is a. So starting with say a. So we need to find them. So how can we do it? So I can say names dot find function name, and what should our condition be in this case? That the starting letter, so name 0, that is the starting letter, is equal to ch. So I can say return name is equal to ch. This is my condition, and I can say let name1 is equal to this, and I can say console.log find and name1. Now when I run it, what do I get? I get find has gotten Anna. If I make this say S, I should get Sam, yes. If I make it J, I should get Jack. So this is working fine. And just for simplicity, let me take this function out and put it into a function. So let's call it function is starting, and it takes a name and a start, and it will return name0 is equal to start. This is exactly what we have done here. So let me change this here to say, use that function, return is starting name comma ch. So exactly the same thing. Let's run it. That's working fine. Let's use it to find the index. So let index is equal to names dot find index function, let's say name, and we can again use this function is starting name comma ch, and I can do a console dot log index is index. Now when I run it, I get the index of Jack is 0. If I made it something else, say Anna A, I should get 1, which is fine. And similarly we can do filter. So I can say let arr is equal to names dot filter function name return is starting name comma ch, exactly using the same function. And I can do a console dot log, and let's just print the, so Anna, that is the starting with A. Let me make it say S, I get Sam. If I make it say J, what do I get? I get Jack. Modify the code in the above exercise to define 3 functions which take the array of names and CHS parameters corresponding to find, findIndex, and filter. So we had defined codes for find, findIndex, and filter. Now we want to write a function which can be called for this. So this is the code we had. So now I want to say, I want to put a function here, function find name, which takes what? An array, names array as input, and to find. These are the 2 things it takes as input. And what should it return? If I put this code in, it should return the value it has found, which is name1. Now let me change this code. So this names should become names array, and this ch is becoming to find because we have to use this from the parameter. So now this function find name will take these 2 parameters, an array and a value, and find and return it. Let me call the function console dot log, let me say find name, and now I can say names comma say t, and let me just console. Now when I run it, what should I get? I should get Tim here. So I can say, let me put a using function. This is what we are doing. I did not save it. Now if I run it, I get using function, I get Tim. Now if I put say B, there is no name starting with B, so I get undefined. So now I have this function which can take these 2 parameters, the array and the start, and do it. Similarly, I can do it for the index. So let's do that. I can say function find name index, and it takes a names array and what to find. These are the 2 parameters it takes. And what will it do? It will, using this array, it will find find, and once it has found it, it will just return index. And I can say console.log index is find name index. What are the parameters? Names, and I could have passed a parameter, say ch, if I want to use ch here. If I run it, j, I get the index as 0. Let me make it say s, and if I run it, I get the index at 2. So let me make this one also as ch so that they are giving the same values. So I get using function sam and index is 2. So now this is the function I have created. Similarly, I can create this function for filter. Let me go ahead and do it. So let's say function filter names. It takes the names array and the to find. These are the two parameters. And what does it do? It creates this array and return ARR. This is what it will do. Now, what is the parameter here? Names array, and the other parameter is to find. Now I can print it again, console.log filter, and what is the function name? Filter names, and the parameter are names and ch. Now I get filter sam. Let's change this ch to say j, and we get the correct output. So why did we build a function here? So now in this function, I just need to pass these two parameters and I can use them. So there were more complex things to do. Then this kind of enclosing it within functions helps us, and it's good to understand how to do it. Given an array of JSON employees and a department and a city. So employees have a field, say ID, department and city. We need to find an employee with the given department and city, the index of the employee, and all the employees with the given department and city. So here we have an array of employees, EMPS, which has the details of these employees. Each detail is a JSON, and each JSON has name, city and department. And we have been given the values of city and department, and we need to find an employee which matches that. So what do we need to do? So let's say we need to do emps dot find function, let's call it employee, each employee in emps. So now what do we need to do? We will say return, what do we need to do? Return emp dot city is equal to city, so it should match with city, and emp dot department should be equal to department. Now if this matches, then this is the employee we were looking for. So I can say let employee1 is equal to this, and console.log emp1. Let's run it. So when I run it for Delhi and Tech, it matches Jack. Perfect. If I say made it Delhi and HR, it gives me Tim. Tim is the first with Delhi and HR. Yes. So we have matched it and we have been able to get it. Similarly, we could have found the index, and I can say let index is equal to emps dot find index function emp. And what can we do here? We just need exactly the same condition, so I'll just copy and paste it. And I can then say console.log index. So index I get is 3, so index of Tim is 3, perfectly fine. And now we can do a filter, so I can say let arr is equal to emps dot filter, and I can say function emp. And what do we do here? Again, I need the same condition, so let me just copy it and put it here. And I can say console.log arr. Now let's run it. So we get 1, which is Delhi and HR. So Delhi and HR has 1. Let's say make it Delhi and Tech. What do we get? We get Jack, index 0, and we get 2 employees, Jack and Bon. So Bon is city and Delhi this. Let's make the city as say London and test it. So we get Anna, London Tech, yes. The index is 1, which is right, and we get 2, Anna and Mary. Let's make it say instead of tech, let's say we call it finance department. What do we get? We get undefined, -1, and an empty array, which because no employee matched it. So a very important operator for arrays is spread operator. What is the purpose of the spread operator? It creates a copy of the array. So suppose we want to create a copy of an array, we would use the spread operator. And the important thing is, because it's a copy, the copy is different from the original array. That is, changes made to the copy are not reflected in the original and vice versa. So in the original array, those changes are not reflected. And if we make changes in the copy, they are also not reflected in the original. Suppose we have these two arrays given to us and we want to create a copy of this array. So we can say const nums1. Suppose that's the name of the copy, and I would use the spread operator to make this copy. So this is how we use the spread operator. That's its syntax. So this is the name of the variable, the array, and this is how we use the spread operator. Similarly, I could have made a copy of names. Names1 is spread names. And now if I console.log nums, so let's call it, and let's say console.log copy, let's call it copy comma nums1, we get the same. And I could have done this for the names also. So I could have said names and names1. So we get a copy. Now important thing is, as we discussed, that when we are making it, if we make changes in it, these two arrays are very different, nums and nums1. So let's say we say nums dot push 100. So we have pushed something in nums, and let's say we say nums1 dot pop. So we have popped. Now when we run it, what do we get? You can see that in nums 100 has been pushed, whereas in the copy nums1 a value has been popped and there is no 100. So these two are now completely different and independent arrays. So we created a copy and we can run it. Another commonly used function is join. And what's the purpose of join? Join joins the elements of the array into a string, and these elements will be separated by a specified separator whose default value is comma. So I have these arrays given to us. So we could have said console.log nums. So now when I print it, it gets printed as an array. I could have also said console.log nums.join and say given a colon. So now it will create a string joining all these values with the colon as the separator. So as you can see, when I run it, I get this kind of an output. So it's made a string. If I don't give, it becomes a comma by default. So the default is comma. But if I give something else, suppose I put @, so I get this kind of an output. Same thing I could have done for console.log names.join, and let's say we want them to be separated by space. So I've given a space. So now I can get it in this fashion. If I wanted it like so, now space and space, so it's getting printed that way. So join is typically, one use case is when you want to print something, it's a good way to print and test. Also, if you want to concatenate and build strings out of an array, you can use join. An important function is sort. So sort is a requirement we have a lot of times. And what does sort do? Sort the elements of the array in place using the specified sorting function. So we'll provide a sorting function. Important thing, it sorts the elements of the array in place. So what does that mean? It means that the original array is modified by sort. Suppose I have this array of numbers and I want to sort these numbers in ascending order. So how should we do it? So the way to do it is we would say nums.sort and give it a function which would compare numbers. So let's call this function comp numbers. Let's define this function comp numbers, and a sorting function takes two parameters which will be elements of these arrays. So num1 and num2, and we can say if num1 is greater than num2. So if num1 is greater than num2, what should we do? We want it to be sorted in ascending order. So the number which should come later, if that is the condition, we will return 1 here, which means a positive value. If num1 is less than num2, we will return -1, a negative value. Else, so this should be an else if, else return 0. So 1 if we want it later, -1 for what we want earlier, and if they are same. So these are the three conditions we want in the array. When we are sorting it, we want values later, earlier and same. So now when I say console.log nums, you can see that this array has been sorted. So before sorting, suppose I made a copy of it. So let me say const nums copy is equal to nums. So let's print the copy also so that we can see it. So console.log nums copy. So this is our copy. So this was our original array and this is how we have sorted it. So let's understand this function again. So to the sort function, we provide the name of the function. This function will take two parameters. It is comparing these two, and it is saying which one should come earlier and which one should come later in the sorted order. So the one that should come later should have a return value of positive. The one which should have come earlier should have a return value of negative, and two which are same should have the value same. So let's call it, say we call this as ascending. So I can make this as say ASC. Suppose we wanted to sort the same numbers in descending, then what we should have done? Let me copy this function and let's say we wanted to make it descending. Now what do we want? We want the larger number first. So if num1 is greater than num2, I should return -1 because this should be earlier. I want num1 earlier. If num1 is less than num2, I should return 1 because it will now come later, and we can do it. Now if I run this using DESC, what do I get? I get it sorted in descending order. Suppose we have an array of strings names and we want to sort this array in ascending order. So similarly we can say names.sort and compare names, let's say ascending. So let's define this function now. Function compare names ascending. It will take two elements from this array. So let's call it say name1 and name2. And what do we want to do? We need to compare this in the dictionary way. What will come earlier in the dictionary and what will come later in the dictionary. So for that we have this function names1 dot locale compare name2, which will return exactly the same values. It will return negative if names1 comes before names2, 0 if same, and positive if names1 comes after names2 in the dictionary. So this is what this function does. So now what do we want? We want to get them in ascending. So we can just return this value and it should work for us. And now if I do a console.log names, what do I get? Names1 is not defined. It should be name1. That's the error. So I get Anna, Jack, Mark, Tim. So in ascending order. Suppose I want to sort it in descending order. So let me create a function for descending order and use it. So if it was descending order, it should have been -1 into this. So if I just do this, it should make it descending order. And now if I use this, I get Tim, Mark, Jack, Anna. So this is how we would use sort to sort an array. Given an array of strings, sort the array in ascending order of the length of the strings. So given the length of the string, in their ascending order, we need to sort the array. So suppose we have been given this array names and we want to sort in ascending order of length. So let's define it. So names dot sort and compare length, let's call it, and in ascending. This is what we want. So let's define this function. Function compare length ascending. It again takes two strings. So let's call it say str1 and str2. And we want it ascending. So let's say let len1 is equal to str1 dot length, let len2 is equal to str2 dot length. Now if len1 is greater than len2, that means it should come later, so we need to return 1. Else if len1 is less than len2, so it should come earlier, which means return a -1. Else if they are the same, I return a 0. Now I can say console.log names. So now we can see add 2, length 3, 4, 4 and 5. So it has sorted it in ascending order of the length. Suppose we did not want this array to change, so we could have created a copy here. So I could have said const names copy is equal to, and instead of sorting names, I could have sorted names copy, and I can say console.log names copy. And now if I run it, my original array remains the same and names copy has been sorted in ascending order of the length. An array consists of JSON regarding the sale of the day. Each JSON has the fields name, quantity and price. So product which was sold, the quantity and the price. Sort the array in descending order of the sales value for the day. So what will be sales value? Quantity into price. So on that JSON, we would sort the arrays in the descending order of the sales value. Suppose we have this array sales data which has a array of JSONs, and each JSON has the sale data for a product on that day. So the name of the product, the quantity and the price at which it was sold. So what do we need to do? Sort in descending order of value. So value is basically quantity into price. So this is what we need to do. So let's say sales data dot sort, and let's call this function compare value and descending. So let's call that function, create that function compare value descending, and product 1 and product 2. So these are the two things that will come here. So this JSON will come in and this JSON will come in. Let's just do a console.log pr1 and console.log pr2 to see that first. If I run it, so it is getting called with these JSONs. So they are coming. Now once the JSONs are coming in, I need to compare value. So let me create let value 1. Let's call it v1 is equal to pr1 dot quantity into pr1 dot price. So that is my value of the first. Second value, let v2 is equal to pr2 dot quantity into pr2 dot price. Now we need to sort in descending order of value. So we can say if v1 is greater than v2, we want it earlier, so I will return -1. Else if v1 is less than v2, we will return 1. Else they are the same, so return 0. Now let me print the sales data. So console.log sales data. If I run it, what do I get? So I get Colgate at top. So what is the value of Colgate? It's 6 into 60, 360, that is the highest. Then we have Pepsi. Pepsi is 20 into 15, 300. Okay. Then we have Nescafe, 30 into 9, 270. Coke, 15 into 10, 150. And then we have Maggie, which is 10 into 12, 120. So we have been able to sort them in the descending order. An array consists of JSON regarding the performance of students in the exam. Each JSON has the fields name, marks 1 and marks 2. Define a function that takes the array and a number mincut as parameters and returns an array having the details of students who scored more than mincut. So scored more. So marks 1 plus marks 2 should be greater than mincut and sorted in descending order of the total marks. So suppose we have this students data and let's say min cut is 15.9. So we want all the students greater than equal to 60. So what, and we need to define this function. So let's say function get st data, and what does it take? It takes the array of students and the cut. So these are the two things it does. And what will it do? It will first filter and then sort in descending. So these are the two things it will do. So let's first do the filter. So I can say array dot filter, and what should be the filter? I can say function and let's call it st. Return st dot marks 1 plus st dot marks 2. This whole thing should be greater than equal to cut. Should be greater than cut. Now if this is true, it should come in the filter. And let's call it let arr1 be that filtered array. So now that we have filtered it, we need to sort it. So we can now say arr1 dot sort, and let's put a sorting function compare total descending. This is what we need to do. And once we have sorted it, we can return arr1. So let's define this function. Function compare total descending. It will get two students as parameters, these two JSONs. And what should it do? So first, let's say we want to create total 1. So let total 1 is equal to st1 dot marks 1 plus st1 dot marks 2. Similarly, I can create total 2, st2 dot marks 1 plus st2 dot marks. Now I want to compare, so I can say if total 1 is greater than total 2. So I want it to appear earlier because it's descending, so I will return -1. Else if total 1 is less than total 2, I will return a 1, else return 0. So now that I have done this function, this should work. So let me call this function here. So let me say get st data, and the parameters are st data and mincut, and let's take it into an array. So I'll call it const filtered array is equal to this, and let's just do a console.log of the. Let's run this code. So we get 4 elements in it. So we get Mary 41, 40, 81, it meets the cut, perfect. Bob 72, meeting the cut. Anna 69, yes. And Harry 65. And they are sorted in total. Who are missing the cut? So Jack is not there, Jack's total is 58, okay. Bob is there, Tom is not there with 49, so this is working fine. If I make this cut say as 10, so which means everybody should make it. I get all the 6 and they are sorted here. Let's make it say 80. Now who makes the cut? It is only Mary with 81. So here what we did, we were able to define a function which did both. First it did a filter, and then on the output of the filter we did a sorting.